Professor Ng. You are the editor-in-chief of Geological Journal. Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Professor of Paleontology in the University College in Dublin in Ireland. I teach all aspects of fossils. I particularly work on corals, extinct corals, rugose corals from the Carboniferous period. And that has taken me over many countries, looking at coral reefs in Europe and in Africa and North America. I also look at microfossils with the foraminifera and algae, which are found in the limestones with the corals, and these help us to date the rocks and to correlate from continent to continent. I submitted one of my first papers to Geological Journal from my PhD thesis, and I've been a regular subscription to the journal over many years. And in 1998, the editor-in-chief then, he invited me to take over from him. Even though I had no editorial experience before that, I thought about it, and I had a 6-month period in transition, and then in 1999 I accepted the role of editor-in-chief. So for the last 14 years I've enjoyed this role. I've been stimulated by it. It's been a great challenge and a great privilege to work with a team of geologists and geophysicists, all in the editorial board, and also working with Wiley's, a very professional team for production and for marketing. So I've seen different aspects of the journal in its production.
Please tell us about the scope of Geological Journal and what do you hope to achieve during your tenure as editor-in-chief?
Well, Geological Journal was launched in 1951, and we're coming up to an important milestone in 2 years' time, in 2015, because it'll be our 50th year. We're going to have our 50th volume, so that's quite an important step in our growth. During the time that I've been involved as editor-in-chief, we've had some important changes. We've certainly seen the growth of the journal. We've seen certainly an importance in the size of the journal. We've gone from 4 issues to 6 issues per year. We've also gone to an A4 size format, which is attractive to many authors because they like the big size for printing, for publishing maps and plates and so on. So this has been well received. We also print special issues from time to time, usually 1 a year. And these have been very important because some of these papers have very high sightings on the impact factor, so they're quite an important aspect to the journal. In terms of what I've hoped to see in the next few years, I'd like to see an expansion of the journal into Asia, particularly China. Certainly in the last few years we've seen a steady rise in the number of submissions from China, and I'd like to continue that trend. I think it's an important growth area. There's a lot of exciting work coming out of China, and I believe it needs an international audience, and we can provide that in Geological Journal.
Please, can you give an introduction to Geological Journal regarding journal impact factor, readership, time span from paper submission to first decision, author service, and board members, etc.?
Maybe I could take the last one first, the editorial board. That has been increasing over the last few years. I've been particularly influential in trying to increase the number of editors from China, and we now have 4 on the editorial board, which is nearly a quarter of the whole board. And I think that's a reflection of the way the journal is going, where we see growth. And certainly the Chinese market is a very important market for us now. This year in particular, over 1/3 of our submissions are from authors in China. So it's quite obvious that there is a growth area here, so we need to address that. In terms of impact factor, we recorded last year a 25% rise in our impact factor from 1.34 to 1.66. So that's a very significant step, and I think we'd like to try and maintain that, and if not, increase on it. because that's an important measure of how successful a journal is on the international market. I mean, with Geological Journal being a multidisciplinary journal, we want to try and attract from all branches of geology. So this is, the Chinese market is such an important market. Many different branches of geology are represented, so we'd like to attract as many as possible.
What would you say to someone who is considering submitting their papers to Geological Journal? How do you look at the paper submitted from China? What is your expectation to Chinese authors?
We recognize that there is an important opportunity and outlet that Geological Journal can provide for Chinese authors. And I'm very much supportive of more Chinese geologists publishing their work in our journal. I feel that they could get the benefit of having an international readership in our journal, and it will certainly have a greater raising of their individual profile if they can get papers published in our journal. Of course, like all international journals, we have a high standard and we make sure that the best papers are published. So we have a very high peer review system. We have international experts who do the reviewing. But once a paper can survive the review process, we can look forward to that paper being published, and the authors will benefit from having it published in our journal. We encourage as many Chinese geoscientists to submit their work to Geological Journal. We understand that there can be potential language problems for Chinese workers, but we'd certainly encourage all authors to have their paper read by an English-speaking colleague, just to make sure it is well written in English, and also that all authors would look at the guidelines to make sure they fully comply with the format and the style of the journal. This is important because I know for a fact some of fellow editors who work on other journals, they will actually refuse a paper if it doesn't fully comply with the format of that journal. So we don't want to turn away papers without the authors doing their due diligence and making sure that the paper is professionally prepared. We'd also encourage them to look at past papers that we published recently to get an idea of the style and the format. We'd also suggest that authors could look at the archive. We have now all of the journals, the previous volumes, going back to volume 1 on the Geological Journal website, so they can access all papers in the past, and they can get a lot of information about the guidelines for publishing in Geological Journal. So this is a very important first stop. They also, through online submission, they can now track their paper through the system, so they can find out where their paper is, whether it's been revised, at what stage they can expect proofs of accepted papers. We normally would expect a paper to be proofed within about 3 or 4 weeks once it's been accepted. And then 2 weeks later, it'll go on to Early View, which is our online system for papers which have been accepted but yet not printed. So it means these can be accessed and downloaded, and they're fully citable papers several weeks, if not months, before they are printed with volume and issue numbers. So this is a very important way of getting authors to get their paper published very quickly and accessible on the global market.
Last question. So you are currently in Beijing, China, to attend a conference. What attracted you to this conference?
Well, this is my second visit to Beijing. Last year I came for the launch of the Journal of Paleogeography, which was a very successful meeting, and I was invited to join the board there. And this year we're celebrating the first international conference in Beijing. And I've been involved as an associate editor-in-chief now of the journal, and I'm helping with the abstracts and helping with the conference proceedings. I'm also running a field trip to Yongding River along with Professor Su, and we're hopeful we can keep this journal surviving and maintaining its position and even enhancing its status. I mean, I have an interest in the journal clearly because it specializes in my area: geography, paleogeography, sedimentology, paleontology. this is all the areas that I work in, so I'm quite happy to support this. But clearly when I'm here, I have an opportunity to meet up with editors who are from the Geological Journal who are based in China. I'm meeting tomorrow Santosh, who is in the Chinese University of Geological Sciences here in Beijing. I'll also be meeting with Professor Zong Chen from Wuhan, and he's also on the board of Journal of Paleogeography. So it gives me an opportunity to meet face-to-face with my colleagues from the editorial board, and we can discuss strategic planning and how we can improve the journal, and particularly to make it more attractive to Chinese workers, because there are many universities in China here, many institutes, petroleum geology, and they all have exciting work that they want to get published. So this is obviously an avenue for us to pursue, to try and attract more submissions to Geological Journal. So I see this as a profitable opportunity to meet with these editors from who are based in China.